Alright, I started grinding out and cleaning out and plasma cutting a little bit to see what all I need to repair. I gotta repair all the way up on this end just like the other end. This is all really solid. There's a little hole there, and a little, but there's a hole there and a hole there, and I'll just weld them in. This is under the brace on that side. You won't see the fact that it doesn't have these ribs because I'm just going to use flat sheet metal there. GM put these ribs in the floor to make it so it wouldn't oil can, so it'll be a little more strength. But with the weld beads, it'll be plenty strong. Cut this side out. Took the plasma cutter, and I'm going to butt weld everything. I'm going to cut this out right like that eventually. Kind of square this up maybe a little bit, but kind of see what I got to repair. You can see where I welded the new inner rocker in it. So yeah, so next step is I'm gonna make the cardboard templates and then start bending and fitting metal. When I get the metal all fitted in, I'll trace around it with a Sharpie, and then I'll cut right on that line so the new metal will fit right against where I cut it, so I can weld it right on the joint and it'll look a little nicer. I mean, it's the undercarriage. You don't really see, this is all underneath the mats and stuff, and this brace. You won't see anything here, but you might see this. You might see this area. So I want it to look nice, you know. I don't want it to look all cobbled up. So I want it to look good when you look at when it's on a hoist and you look at it on the undercarriage. I want it to look proper. So the underneath I'm going to make look right, and it's going to be good and solid, and won't have any issues with it in the future. But this is kind of what I use. Just this thin, lightweight cardboard to make my templates, a little bit of tape, pencil, and a pair of scissors, and you can start making the templates with that. The best way to do it is make your sheet metal out of cardboard first, or your patch repair section out of cardboard, and then just trace it on your metal. Cut your metal out and start bending it and fitting it, and then weld it in. So we're going to try and start working on this. I've worked on this, I don't know, about 2 or 3 hours already, and probably spend another hour or so, and then I'll call it quits for the day. And then it'll be a couple of days before I get at it again. But I think I should have this side fixed by early next week, and then I'll start on that side, because I just haven't had, you know, extra complete free days to get out here and really tear into the car, so I just work on it when I can, and it's coming along. So yeah, I think we'll be looking good when we're done here. And I did kind of cover things up so I don't get dirt on them, because grinding with that stuff, you just get stuff everywhere. So okay, well, I'm going to get to making the cardboard templates. I just wanted to show kind of what I do. I make a template out of cardboard, and then I'll fine tune it a little bit more, and then I'll trace it onto the sheet metal and cut the sheet metal out, and then I can bend and trim and work the sheet metal. It'll stay formed where the cardboard doesn't, so I can make a panel that fits nicely in there, and then when I'm all done, where I got it to where I like it, I can trace around the perimeter with a Sharpie and then cut it out so the line still shows, and weld it up. So we're working on it. I'm going to make this panel in 2 or 3 pieces, but kind of trace it out on the sheet metal, and then I'll cut it out and start working it, and then I'll make the other pieces after I get this piece fit in, because I may have to adjust the cardboard template a little bit so I don't waste sheet metal. But I'm going to cut that one out and start working on that one now. And I also, I'll show you what I did. I painted the inside of the brace so it won't rust. So anymore, it's a Rust-Oleum base paint, and just help protect it by painting the inside of it. This is the welder I use to weld the panels in, and those are the settings on the controls for sheet metal. I just use the lowest heat. I put the wire speed on auto set and that on 24 gauge. Let's say, I think it's ER 7076 wire I have on the spool. It's maybe, take a wild guess, 30 thousandths, maybe 28, 30, somewhere around in that neck of the woods. I think it's ER70S6 wire, and I run a argon CO2 mix. And that's what I run the pressures. This is the regulated pressure that I run the nozzle at, usually around 15 cubic feet an hour, but that's without the trigger pull. And this is what I use to make my templates, is this chipboard. So you can kind of see what I use to do. And I've been plugging away at the welding here, getting this welded up. So we'll make a little video of running a weld bead on there. Kind of a must when you're welding on a car, have a fire extinguisher. I use a pump up Darden sprayer, and then if you get the undercoating on fire, you can just kind of give it a squirt and put it out. So you end up with water. Sometimes you got to clean up all your water before you weld, but I only squirt it if I get something burning. I check pretty frequently, especially when you're welding something like this on the floor pans, where you got undercoating on the other side. And so what I'll do for these holes is I'll go from underneath the car and drill up with a tiny drill bit, and then I'll take a larger one to drill for the bolt holes for the seat. So you can kind of see I've made several panels here. It was a big panel, and so we'll get this finished up, and then I'll start on that, and then I'll get the other side tackled. But this has got about maybe 4 or 5 hours into forming the sheet metal and welding it in. That was after I made probably about an hour in making the template out of cardboard. So let me get back to work here. Having a nice tight joint is crucial. And I got a little burn through right there, so I'll fix that hole up. What I do when I get a hole burned through is I just build a little weld up around the hole to make the sheet metal thicker, and then you can work off that, so it just makes it quicker repair. And a little hole in the weld there. that joint looks pretty good. Now I'll squirt these joints with water from underneath the car, so if water comes through where I've welded, I can weld it up. I want this to be watertight, so when you drive it in the rain, this doesn't get wet in here. So it's really important to have your welds watertight. So that's just kind of a little bit of welding. Then I'll work this with the body hammer a little bit and get that nice and snugged up. And I got to clean a little bit of paint off there, and then I'll weld that up. It's important to weld the clean bare metal. You get a lot better weld. So I'll get this finished welding in. I'll cut out a template, cut that out, and start welding that up. But I just wanted to show a little bit about welding the joints. Alright, this side's welded in on the right there, and now I'm going to do the back part. So you can see I kind of cut a template out to weld in there, and I saved my old ones because generally the rust on both sides of the car will be the same, although that side's a little more rusted out, so I'll just tape a piece into here when I get ready to do that side over there, because that whole part underneath the brace is rusted out. When this is all repaired, it shouldn't look any different on the undercarriage. You'll still see all these. Everything that's being repaired, there's a brace underneath it, so you know, it just must have held dirt in the weld joints and inside the brace and rotted that out. So anyway, we'll get this cut out with sheet metal. I'll trace it out on some sheet metal and cut it out with the plasma cutter, and cut this out with the cutter and fit it in and get it welded in. It's coming along good. So, and I'll grind all these, you know, I got a couple grinders here, so I'll grind all these welds out, clean up the pans, and I'll paint all this. Probably just paint it with a brush so I don't get overspray on the dashboard and whatnot. But yeah, it's coming along good. I think it's going to turn out nice. It's going to be good solid floors. That doesn't move at all, and I haven't even welded that up yet. So let me get the plasma cutting this out. And an exhaust fan in the garage is kind of a must when you're welding and cutting. Get, you know, ventilate out the garage. So I put that in, blows outside, so I don't get so smoky in the garage. All right, we'll cut this out. And, oh, one other thing, I made this bench, and I have the plans for it. And this hood is hinged. You can undo this thing right here, and it's all hinged and will fold down flat out of the way. You unbolt the vise and you can have a completely flat surface. It's a steel bench, so you have even welded bolts for the, like the ground clamp for the plasma cutter. So yeah, it's kind of my homemade work welding bench. I don't know if that shows up or not, but I traced the line onto the sheet metal from the cardboard, and now I'll just cut it out. Another thing I do before I weld in panels, if it's over a brace or somewhere you can't access, I like to paint it before I weld it in so that it's protected from rust. The weld will burn a little bit of the paint off on the edges, but there isn't much you can do about that. I can get up in there through the holes in the brace and spray some undercoating when I'm done. Paint is important first though. Undercoating doesn't really protect. Like if you're going to undercoat something, you know, like with that Tari rust proofing, paint it first and you'll have a much better end result and longevity. Alright, I welded in the other pan. That hole there is for a body plug goes in there. I welded the seat belt where that was bolted in, and it's wet underneath the car. I keep the undercarriage squirted with my little bug sprayer thing there to keep fires from going. So once it dries out underneath the car, I will drill those holes, and of course I'll have to repaint an undercoat where the undercoating burned off under here. But basically that still looks pretty mostly original under there. So because that was underneath that brace right there, or above it I should say. So there's a little bit that might show like right in here, and I'll get underneath and maybe weld that to the floor pan to the sheet metal, and I'll weld the braces and spots like it was originally spot welded to this once it's dry underneath, and I'll bore the holes up through for the seat. I'll just bore like really small holes, and then I'll take a big bit from the top. I'll just use that so I know where to drill, and then I'll drill it out like that so that it has a hole there for the seat bolt. I'll run a tap through the bolt holes to clean the threads up, and so yeah, it's looking really good, and I'll get started on that side probably early next week sometime. I don't know if I'll probably finish this up tomorrow and get this painted with some Rust-Oleum. So I got to grind out the welds, get my grinders to work out and grind the welds out too, and then I'll give this a coat of Rust-Oleum. But I'm going to finish this side completely before I start on that side, so tomorrow when the floor is dry I'll get underneath, bore those holes, put the tack welds on the braces, and grind out the welds. And as you can see, this cardboard template will work on this side. Basically it was over that way on this side, and I flip it over this way on this side, and I'll be able to use this so I won't need to make another template. So once I get all that finished up tomorrow, this side will be a little faster because I already have the templates cut out and I know what I'm doing on that side. So I'll get the like I say, get that finished up, and I'll get started on this side here. So I'll make video this side too. Thank you for watching my videos.